Erythra-Prime was a jewel among the stars. From orbit, the planet looked like a sapphire wrapped in green and silver. Its oceans stretched wide, glittering under the light of its twin suns, while endless plains of farmland spread across its continents. Vast networks of irrigation turned deserts into gardens. The people of Erythra-Prime lived in peace, growing food not only for themselves but for dozens of other colonies scattered across human space. Life on the colony was quiet, almost idyllic. Children played in parks where tall crystalline towers shone, families worked the fertile land, and ships carried harvests off-world. To the colonists, war was a distant story told in old history books. The conflicts of Earth were far behind them. They believed humanity had entered a golden age, one where technology and cooperation would secure peace forever. That illusion ended in a single night. It began with a shadow, silent, cold, and immense. Erythra-Prime's orbital defense stations detected unusual readings in the outer system. At first, the signals were faint, like whispers on the edge of space. The local command thought it was a sensor error, but within minutes the whispers became thunder. Hundreds of unknown ships appeared on the scanners, advancing with mechanical precision toward the planet. The colonists had never seen anything like them. These ships were dark, jagged, and unfamiliar, shaped not for trade but for destruction. They carried no flags, no symbols of peace. Their message was clear without words. Erythra-Prime's defense fleet was small, only a few patrol ships built more for escorting freighters than for battle. Yet they rose to meet the threat. The captains knew their chances, but they also knew their duty. Families on the planet below depended on them. As the alien fleet advanced, the humans transmitted hails in every known galactic language. No response came. Instead, the aliens opened fire. Blinding beams of energy cut through the void, tearing through the patrol ships with terrifying ease. The battle was swift. Human vessels fought with courage, but they were hopelessly outmatched. On the surface, the colonists looked to the skies. Some saw streaks of fire raining down, the final remains of their defenders. Others listened in fear as emergency broadcasts filled the air. The governor's voice trembled as she urged evacuation to shelters, though everyone knew there was little time. Then the bombardment began. Columns of light descended from orbit, striking cities and farmlands alike. Towers of glass shattered, forests burned, and once thriving settlements fell silent in seconds. The aliens did not target military bases alone. They struck everywhere, as if their goal was not conquest but erasure. In the capital city of Ardent Reach, families crowded into underground shelters. Children clung to their parents as the ground shook. The walls rattled with every blast. Power flickered, communication lines failed, and soon only the sound of distant destruction filled the silence. Yet, even in the face of disaster, acts of bravery shone. Doctors worked tirelessly in makeshift hospitals, treating the injured with whatever supplies they had. Farmers opened their storage vaults, giving food to those trapped in the ruins. Pilots tried to launch civilian shuttles, carrying refugees toward hidden valleys where they might survive. Each effort was small against the vastness of the attack, but they were not meaningless. Humanity had always endured by helping one another, even when hope seemed lost. But hope was fading fast. The bombardment lasted for hours. When the alien fleet finally ceased fire, the planet was scarred beyond recognition. Great plains, once golden with crops, now lay as blackened fields. Glittering towers were nothing but broken glass. The once proud capital was silent, its streets covered in ash. Survivors emerged slowly from shelters, stunned by what they saw. Many wept, not only for the dead but for the loss of everything they had built. Erythra-Prime had been a dream, a symbol of how far humanity could rise. Now it was a graveyard. The aliens did not stay to occupy the world. They came only to destroy and to warn. After the last attack, their ships gathered into formation and vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving ruins behind. But their message remained. The governor of Erythra-Prime, though injured, managed to send a final transmission before communications failed completely. Her voice, carried across the stars, reached Earth and every major colony. "This is Governor Lyra Halden of Erythra-Prime. We have suffered an attack by unknown forces. Our defenses are gone. Cities are burning. We do not know why they came, but they left us no chance. We are falling. Tell humanity, remember us. Do not let this happen again." Static followed, then silence. The transmission struck like lightning across human space. News networks replayed the words endlessly. People on Earth watched in horror as images of ruined cities and burning fields filled their screens. On Mars, entire crowds stood still, listening in silence. On Titan, engineers dropped their tools, their hands shaking. Grief soon turned into anger. For centuries, humanity had struggled to find unity. Nations once competed, corporations once warred, and colonies often acted independently. But the fall of EpicSciFiTales broke those divisions in a way no treaty ever could. In schools, children asked their teachers why the aliens had attacked. In streets, citizens lit candles and held vigils. In council halls, leaders swore that this tragedy would not be repeated. And in the quiet of their homes, families whispered the same words again and again: "We will remember." The galaxy had underestimated humanity. To the aliens, EpicSciFiTales was just another colony, a place to make an example. But they had forgotten one thing. Humanity was not a scattered species anymore. Across hundreds of worlds, billions shared one heritage, one memory, and one determination. The loss of one colony was not the end. It was the beginning of something greater. Even as the ruins of EpicSciFiTales smoldered, human fleets began to stir. On Earth, ancient shipyards that had not seen full use in generations lit up once more. On Mars, massive construction plants roared to life, producing warships at a pace not seen since humanity first reached the stars. Engineers, pilots, and soldiers volunteered in numbers no one had expected. In every corner of human space, the same words echoed: "For EpicSciFiTales." The aliens had believed humanity would cower. Instead, they had awakened a storm. The fall of EpicSciFiTales echoed across every human world. The transmission of Governor Lyra Halden was replayed again and again until her final words became part of human memory. No one forgot the tremor in her voice, the sound of explosions in the background, and the silence that followed. At first, the people grieved. Families wept for relatives who had lived on EpicSciFiTales. Students wrote poems, children lit candles, and entire cities held vigils. Yet grief did not remain as grief. Slowly, steadily, it transformed into resolve. Humanity had faced disasters before, plagues, wars, famines, but never something like this. For the first time, the threat was not among themselves, but from beyond the stars. Leaders of every colony and every fleet were summoned to a single gathering, the United Terran Council on Earth. For weeks, representatives had argued in that chamber about trade routes, resource shortages, and political disagreements. Now, for the first time in living memory, all voices spoke with one purpose. Admiral Joran Cade, a veteran of old border skirmishes, stood before the assembly. His hair was gray, his uniform decorated with ribbons that few remembered the meaning of. Yet his voice was steady as he declared, "EpicSciFiTales is not the last. The attackers will come again. They believe we are weak. They believe we will accept silence in place of action. They are wrong." The chamber filled with murmurs. Delegates from Mars, Titan, Europa, and far-flung colonies leaned forward in their seats. Some looked afraid. Others clenched their fists. President Amara Day of Earth rose next. She was not a soldier, but a leader who had guided humanity through years of peace. Her voice carried not anger, but determination. "This council has always been divided by borders and ambitions. But we are one people. One colony has fallen, but in that loss we have found unity. Let us send a message to the stars. Humanity does not break. Humanity stands together." The words were carried across the network to every world. People in domed cities on Mars cheered. Workers in the shipyards of Titan lifted their tools. Children in orbital schools raised their hands and repeated the phrase. A chant began across worlds: "Humanity stands together." The decision was made. Humanity would not wait for the aliens to strike again. Humanity would gather its strength and carry it to the enemy's doorstep. Across the solar system, the call to arms spread. On Earth, the oceans swarmed with floating shipyards, each producing vessels faster than ever before. Factories that once built passenger craft were converted to warship construction. Every worker knew why they labored. They remembered the burning plains of EpicSciFiTales. On Mars, where industry stretched across the red deserts, new shipyards rose like forests of steel. Massive dreadnoughts were assembled, their hulls glowing under the fierce Martian sun. Engineers worked around the clock, their faces lit by sparks as they welded armor thicker than ever before. Titan, Once a quiet colony beneath its thick orange sky, became the forge of humanity's vengeance. Its icy surface vibrated with the sound of reactors and heavy machinery. Fleets of carriers were born there, designed to carry hundreds of fighters into battle. Even distant colonies joined in. Mining worlds sent raw metals. Agricultural colonies sent food. Research stations contributed new weapons and shields. Every part of humanity became part of the effort. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Young pilots who had never seen combat stood proudly in line. Old veterans, long retired, returned to service, saying they would not watch from the sidelines. Families said farewell to loved ones, not in despair, but in pride. Among them was Captain Mira Solon, a transport pilot from Europa. She had never flown a warship, only freighters carrying ice and supplies. But when she saw the images of EpicSciFiTales, she felt something stir within her. If they can destroy one colony, she told her crew, they can destroy us all. I won't wait for that day. She and her shipmates joined the fleet, trained swiftly and prepared for war. Soon the numbers grew staggering. Humanity did not build a fleet of thousands, but of hundreds of thousands. Patrol ships, corvettes, cruisers, carriers, and dreadnoughts, all united under one banner. The armada of humanity reached an incredible size, 700,000 warships. It was the largest fleet ever seen in human history. Nothing like it had existed even during Earth's old wars. The sight of them stretching across the void in formation was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. But numbers alone did not tell the whole story. What made the armada powerful was not only its size but its spirit. Every ship carried people who remembered EpicSciFiTales. Every crew member fought not for conquest but for justice. They were bound together by something greater than orders. They were bound by memory. As the fleet grew, so did the sense of destiny. Humanity's leaders addressed the galaxy. Messages were sent not just to allies but to all who would listen. President Amara Day stood before the cameras once again, her voice steady. To those who attacked us, you believe we will remain silent. You are mistaken. We come not as conquerors, but as defenders of our own. We come to show you that humanity does not forget. We come with 700,000 warships, not to destroy, but to end this threat forever. Her words spread like fire through the stars. Some alien civilizations trembled, unsure of what to think. Others whispered in admiration. A few even sent quiet offers of support. For the first time, humanity was not seen as scattered colonies, but as a single power, a force of unity. The day the fleet departed, the entire solar system watched. From Earth's surface, the night sky glittered with more ships than stars. From Mars, children climbed onto rooftops to see the streaks of light as vessels launched. On Titan, families gathered on the ice plains, pointing upward as carriers ascended into orbit. Admiral Cade stood aboard the flagship Invictus, a massive dreadnought at the heart of the armada. His gaze swept across the endless formation of ships. He had fought many battles in his life, but never had he felt the weight of such responsibility. 700,000, he whispered to himself, for one colony, for all of us. His words were carried on the fleet-wide channel, and crews across thousands of ships repeated them. It became a mantra, a promise. As the engines roared and the stars blurred into lines of light, the fleet began its march across the galaxy. Behind them, humanity held its breath. Ahead of them lay danger, uncertainty, and the enemy who had struck first. But there was no turning back. EpicSciFiTales had fallen. Now humanity rose. The galaxy would remember the day 700,000 warships left their homeworld. They would remember the unity, the determination, and the unshakable vow. The message was clear, written not in words, but in the fire of 1,000,000 engines. For EpicSciFiTales. The departure of the human armada was not a single moment, but a long river of light. For days, streams of ships left orbit around Earth, Mars, Titan, and every colony that had built vessels for the cause. Each launch was watched by millions. Entire cities stopped working just to witness the sight. Schools dismissed classes, and children waved flags from rooftops as the sky filled with streaks of fire. When the last dreadnought lifted from the Martian desert and the final carrier rose from Titan's icy plains, humanity realized something extraordinary had happened. They were no longer scattered colonies. They had become one nation, stretched across the stars, bound by grief and resolve. The 700,000 warships gathered in deep space, forming a shape so vast it seemed to blot out the heavens. Rows of cruisers lined up like blades. Carriers hovered like floating cities. Dreadnoughts loomed at the center, their hulls glowing with fresh armor and the power of their reactors. From the flagship Invictus, Admiral Joran Cade addressed the fleet. His voice echoed through every channel, reaching the ears of millions of crew members. Men and women of humanity, today you march not for glory but for justice. You march for those who cannot march beside you. You march for EpicSciFiTales. Let every star bear witness we are one people and we will not be broken. A roar of voices answered him. Pilots in their cockpits, engineers in their bays, captains on their bridges, all repeated the same cry. For EpicSciFiTales. The march began. The fleet leapt into faster-than-light travel and the stars stretched into rivers of light. They traveled through uncharted regions, navigated nebulae glowing with colors like fire and emerald, and crossed sectors where no human ship had ever gone. Each jump brought them closer to alien space. But they did not travel unnoticed. The sheer size of the armada made it impossible to hide. Every system they entered felt the weight of their presence. On worlds where small civilizations lived, the night skies lit up with thousands of trails as the human ships passed overhead. Farmers on distant moons stopped their work, staring in awe at the silent tide of steel. Miners dropped their tools as they watched colossal carriers drift above their skies. For some species, the sight brought fear. For others, it brought hope. In one border system, the Armada discovered a small colony of insectoid beings known as the Cathari. Their world was under siege by the same aliens who had destroyed EpicSciFiTales. The invaders had built orbital stations and forced the Cathari into slavery, mining their own planet for resources. When the human fleet arrived, the invaders panicked. Their ships scrambled to defend, but they were few compared to the storm that had arrived. The humans attacked with precision, targeting the enemy warships and freeing the captured transports. Within hours, the orbital stations were silent wrecks and the Cathari walked free again. The insectoid people looked up at the humans with shining eyes. They could not speak the same language, but gratitude needed no translation. They raised their wings in salute, and the humans saluted back. News of this spread quickly. Across the galaxy, whispers began. The humans are coming. They fight not only for themselves, but for others. As the march continued, the fleet became more than just a military force. It became a symbol. Everywhere they went, smaller civilizations sent messages of thanks or offers of help. Some could only provide food or fuel. Others offered intelligence on enemy movements. A few even sent their own ships, pledging loyalty to the human cause. Captain Mira Solon, once a transport pilot from Europa, found herself at the center of this new role. Her ship, now part of a cruiser squadron, carried supplies to liberated colonies. She spoke with freed prisoners, listened to their stories, and promised them that the fleet would not stop until the enemy was defeated. Her words carried weight, not because she was famous, but because she spoke with honesty. Mira was not alone. Across the fleet, ordinary men and women rose into roles they had never expected. Engineers became negotiators. Pilots became symbols of hope. Even the youngest recruits who had once been nervous now carried themselves with pride. They were no longer just soldiers. They were guardians. But the march was not without hardship. The fleet was massive, and keeping it supplied was a challenge greater than any war humanity had fought before. Every day, thousands of tons of fuel, food, and spare parts were needed. Logistics crews worked endlessly, organizing convoys and repair stations. Mistakes could cost lives. There were also moments of fear. Scouts reported alien movements on the edge of human sensors. Rumors spread of traps waiting ahead, and always the memory of EpicSciFiTales lingered. Some nights crew members dreamed of burning fields and crumbling towers, but each morning they woke with renewed determination. The enemy tried to resist. Small fleets appeared in ambushes, striking at the edges of the human formation. Yet the sheer size and unity of the Armada crushed these attacks quickly. Where one ship fell, 10 others closed the gap. Where one squadron took damage, another rushed to protect it. Admiral Cade's strategy was clear. Advance steadily, never recklessly, but never hesitating. The enemy had chosen to strike without warning. Now humanity would answer with patience, precision, and overwhelming force. As weeks turned into months, the fleet crossed deeper into alien territory. Planets once ruled by fear now looked to the skies with hope. The humans were coming. The tide was changing. On one world, children painted pictures of human ships on the walls of their schools. On another, elders carved the words for SCIFI-HFY into stone monuments. Across dozens of systems, the name of a fallen colony became a rallying cry for freedom. Humanity had begun this march for vengeance. But now it was becoming something larger. They were not just avenging one world. They were rewriting their place in the galaxy. At the heart of the armada aboard the Invictus, Admiral Cade looked at the star maps. The enemy's home territory was still ahead, its borders thick with defenses. He knew the hardest battles were yet to come. But he also knew something else. The enemy had underestimated humanity. They had thought the fall of one colony would break human spirit. Instead, it had forged unity stronger than any weapon. Standing at the command deck, Cade spoke quietly to his officers. Every jump brings us closer. Every day brings us nearer to justice. The enemy wanted to scatter us, but they have gathered us instead. When we reach their home, the stars themselves will remember what humanity can do. The officers nodded. They understood. The march continued. Stars passed, systems changed, and the armada pressed forward. It was no longer only a fleet of ships. It was the voice of humanity itself, carried on engines that burned brighter than suns. The galaxy watched, waiting for what would come next. And the message was clear to all who saw the endless wave of warships moving forward. Humanity was not a victim. Humanity was a storm. The human armada approached the edge of alien space like a rising storm. For weeks they had crossed star systems, liberating worlds, gathering allies, and spreading hope wherever they went. Now the unknown enemy that had destroyed SCIFI-HFY awaited them. On the command deck of the flagship Invictus, Admiral Joran Cade studied the readings on the holomap. The alien formations were vast, but not as massive as humanity's. They had walls of orbital defenses, fleets of swift fighters, and strange energy weapons, but they lacked unity. Where humanity had discipline, coordination, and a single purpose, the aliens were spread thin, relying on surprise and intimidation. Cade turned to his officers. This is what we've trained for. This is what we've prepared for. Today we face the ones who thought humanity could be broken. Today we show them what we are. His words echoed through the armada. Ships thousands of kilometers apart transmitted the same message. Across the fleet, crews repeated it like a prayer. For SCIFI-HFY. The first clash happened at the outskirts of the alien system. Scouts reported enemy patrols attempting to flank the fleet. Human corvettes and destroyers intercepted immediately, their engines blazing. The battle began quietly at first, beams of energy slicing through the void. Shielded ships dodging and weaving with precision. Captain Mira Solen, now commanding a squadron of cruisers, guided her ships through the chaos. Her voice was calm in the comms channel, steady and reassuring. Focus on coordination. Protect each other. Stay together. Her words carried across her squadron, and they moved as one, a formation as tight as a single living organism. Alien fighters lunged at them, fast and unpredictable, but human tactics were superior. Every move had been practiced, every maneuver anticipated. For hours, the fleets clashed at the edge of the system. Alien ships were powerful, but humanity's strength was its sheer numbers. Where one human ship fell, 10 others were ready to take its place. Squadrons covered each other. Carriers launched waves of fighters, and energy beams carved paths through the dark. Yet even in victory, humanity felt the cost. Every destroyed alien ship reminded the crews of SCIFI-HFY, of the lives lost and the homes destroyed. Each loss strengthened their resolve. As the battle intensified, Admiral Cade ordered the fleet to advance deeper into the system. Human dreadnoughts formed a protective line at the front, shielding the carriers and cruisers. Smaller ships flanked the sides, ready to intercept enemy attacks. The alien command responded with their most powerful weapons. Energy beams unlike any human had seen flared across space, cutting through ships and shattering defenses. Entire squadrons were forced to retreat or risk destruction. Yet humanity adapted. Engineers aboard the carriers rerouted power, strengthened shields, and launched countermeasures. Even the smallest fighters, piloted by newly trained recruits, played critical roles. They dodged enemy fire and drew attention away from larger ships, sacrificing themselves strategically to protect the fleet. Their bravery inspired seasoned veterans and reminded everyone that humanity's strength was not in technology alone, but in courage, teamwork, and determination. After hours of fighting, the human fleet reached the central orbital defenses of the alien home system. Massive towers surrounded the planet, firing relentless beams into space. The enemy had expected humans to break at this point, to hesitate, to falter. They were wrong. Admiral Cade gave the command. Target the defense stations first. Precision and coordination. Take them down without delay. Thousands of warships moved like a single organism. Beam weapons fired in perfect synchronization, disabling shields, piercing armor, and neutralizing weapons. Fighters swarmed around the stations, planting charges and striking weak points. Within hours, the orbital defenses were silenced. The path to the planet lay open. On the planet's surface, the enemy watched with fear. They had not expected humans to survive so far. Their leaders had believed EpicSciFiTales' fall would be proof of humanity's weakness. Now, the largest fleet in human history hovered above their world, ready for what was next. While the Armada prepared for a full-scale engagement, humans continued to show ingenuity. Engineers aboard carriers deployed drones to repair damaged ships mid-battle. Scientists had developed new shielding techniques that absorbed alien energy attacks and converted them into power for the fleet. Even in the midst of chaos, humanity adapted faster than the enemy could anticipate. Captain Mirasolin watched as her squadron moved in formation around a damaged carrier. She directed repair drones and coordinated fighter support, ensuring no ship was left vulnerable. Keep moving. Protect the carriers. We're almost there. Her calm voice carried a sense of purpose, and her squadron followed without hesitation. The sense of unity spread across the fleet. Every crew member understood that this battle was more than tactics. It was about proving that humanity would never bow. Finally, the alien leaders realized the threat was unlike anything they had encountered. They attempted to rally their fleets, launching a counterattack designed to split humanity's forces. Alien ships darted in from all directions, energy beams cutting through space in brilliant flashes. But human coordination was unmatched. Fleets reoriented instantly, forming protective barriers, launching counterstrikes, and using the enemy's momentum against them. One by one, alien ships fell. Communications intercepted by human intelligence revealed panic. The aliens had underestimated humanity, and now their own strategies worked against them. Admiral Cade observed the battle from the Invictus. He felt a mixture of pride and solemnity. Pride in his fleet, solemnity for the stakes at hand. The war was not yet over, and the enemy still controlled the planet below. But humanity had proven something critical. They could stand against forces far greater than any one colony, any one system, or even a single fleet. At the heart of the system, the alien planetary shields flickered and weakened. Humanity's squadrons moved in, coordinating strikes with precision. Bombers targeted energy nodes while fighters protected them from interception. Every strike was calculated, every maneuver rehearsed. Even when humans lost ships, it was never in vain. Each loss created openings, disrupted enemy formations, and demonstrated human resilience. This was not chaos. It was strategy, discipline, and the determination to prevail no matter the odds. Captain Mirasolin led a daring squadron into the planet's lower orbit. She guided her ships past energy beams and orbital debris, ensuring her bombers reached critical targets. Her leadership inspired confidence. Young pilots who had only months ago trained in simulation chambers now performed flawlessly under the pressure of real combat. We move together. We strike together. Humanity stands together. The cry spread across her squadron and beyond. Even amid destruction, the human voice carried hope and courage. By the time the sun rose over the alien planet, the battle had reached a turning point. Humanity's fleet dominated the skies. The alien ships were scattered, damaged, and retreating toward the planet's surface. The orbital defenses had been neutralized. On the surface, the alien population watched in fear. They had believed in their own invincibility, but now they realized they had underestimated humanity. The species that had lost EpicSciFiTales had risen stronger, united, and unstoppable. Admiral Cade spoke one final time to his officers. Today, we have shown the galaxy our resolve. Tomorrow, we will decide the future of this system. Humanity does not fight for revenge alone. We fight to protect our own, to defend what is right, and to ensure no other colony suffers, as SCIFI-Prime did. The Armada paused, regrouping and repairing. Energy shields glowed, engines hummed, and crews tended to the wounded ships. There was no celebration, only focus. They had won this stage, but the battle for the alien homeworld and the final justice for SCIFI-Prime was still ahead. Yet even in this moment of calm, a quiet confidence spread among the humans. For the first time, the enemy had seen humanity as a force that could not be ignored. Humanity had proven that they could endure, adapt, and overcome. The stars themselves seemed to recognize the power of the human armada. Across systems, news of the battle traveled faster than light. The galaxy was beginning to understand something extraordinary. Humans were not a people to be feared only for destruction, but respected for their courage, unity, and unwavering spirit, and humanity would not stop. The march toward justice continued. The clash with the enemy was only the beginning, but it had already shown one undeniable truth. SCIFI-Prime had not fallen in vain, and humanity would not be defeated. The alien homeworld loomed ahead like a dark jewel, surrounded by fields of asteroids and orbiting stations. Humanity's armada, 700,000 strong, hovered in the system, a glittering sea of steel and light. From the flagship Invictus, Admiral Joran Cade watched the planet's surface through magnified scanners. Cities sprawled across continents, massive towers of alien design, and thousands of ships patrolled the skies. Despite the scale of the enemy, the armada remained calm. Every crew member knew what was at stake. This was more than revenge for SCIFI-Prime. This was a chance to change the galaxy forever, to show that humanity was not a species to be ignored or underestimated. "This is it," Cade said quietly to his officers. "The moment we've been marching toward. But remember, we are not destroyers. We are protectors, and we fight to end this threat with honor." His words spread through the fleet. Pilots prepared their fighters, engineers checked every system, and soldiers stood ready. They were united in purpose, hearts beating as one across hundreds of thousands of ships. The first contact was cautious. Human scouts approached the planet, sending messages in every known galactic language. The aliens responded, their communications formal and cold. They proposed negotiations, but only on their terms. They demanded that humans leave and never return. Admiral Cade replied calmly, "We have come not to destroy unnecessarily, but to prevent further harm. We do not accept the attack on SCIFI-Prime, nor will we allow other colonies to suffer. We offer you a choice, peace or defeat. Choose wisely." The alien leaders hesitated. They had expected fear, but they saw neither in the humans. Across the fleet, crews monitored every move, ready for battle if negotiations failed. Days passed in tense standoff. Human scientists and diplomats transmitted proposals, demonstrating willingness to protect rather than conquer. The aliens, however, struggled to accept that a species they had believed weak could move such a massive fleet with precision and unity. Meanwhile, humanity showed acts of restraint. Squadrons patrolled the orbit carefully, avoiding unnecessary strikes. Drones repaired damaged alien satellites when possible, sending a clear signal. Humans were disciplined, strategic, and moral in their warfare. Captain Mira Solon observed from her cruiser squadron. Her eyes scanned the planet below, where cities sprawled like woven tapestries. She reflected on the journey. From SCIFI-Prime's destruction to the liberation of smaller colonies to this moment at the heart of enemy space. Humanity had grown stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. "We have carried more than ships," she said to her crew. "We carry the memory of those lost, the hope of those freed, and the determination to protect the future." Her words echoed across the squadron, inspiring even the newest recruits. Then a breakthrough occurred. Alien leaders, observing humanity's discipline and unwillingness to destroy without cause, agreed to send representatives for face-to-face negotiations. They arrived in a neutral orbit aboard a single unarmed craft. Humanity responded in kind, sending diplomats and military advisors to meet them. The meeting was tense, but respectful. The aliens were proud, used to intimidation, but they could not ignore the strength and unity of humanity. Negotiators spoke slowly, deliberately, understanding that every word mattered. "We underestimated your species," admitted one alien leader. "We thought a single strike would crush you. Instead, you have arrived as one. You have not destroyed us. You have shown mercy, perhaps there is another way. Human representatives nodded. They made it clear that humanity's goal was to prevent further attacks, protect colonies, and establish boundaries that all species could respect. They did not demand conquest, nor did they wish to enslave. The message was simple and firm: peace, backed by the undeniable power of 700,000 warships. After hours of discussion, the aliens agreed to a treaty. They would withdraw from previously attacked colonies and cease hostile operations. They would allow humans to patrol border systems as peacekeepers, ensuring that no further attacks would occur. When the agreement was signed, a wave of relief swept through the human armada. Communication channels buzzed with cheers and applause. Engineers, pilots, and crews hugged one another, knowing that their long march had finally reached its goal. Humanity had achieved victory without unnecessary destruction. Admiral Cade addressed the fleet one final time. Today, we honor those we lost. Today, we protect the future. Today, humanity has shown that even in the darkest hour, we rise together. The stars will remember this day not for war but for courage, unity, and justice. As the human fleets returned to allied systems, stories of the Armada spread across the galaxy. Colonies once oppressed now celebrated human intervention. Freed peoples rebuilt their worlds, inspired by the knowledge that humans would defend the innocent and stand together. SCIFI-Prime, though still in ruins, became a symbol. Memorials were established on human worlds to honor the lost colonists. Children learned the history of that fateful day and the courage that followed. Art, music, and literature celebrated humanity's unity and the march across the stars. Captain Mira Solon returned to her home station, reflecting on the journey. From a simple transport pilot to a leader in humanity's greatest fleet, she had witnessed courage, innovation, and the power of people working together. She knew the galaxy had changed. We fought not for conquest, she told her crew. We fought for justice, for hope for each other. That is what makes humanity strong. Even the alien species once seen as enemies now spoke with caution and respect. They realized that humanity's strength was not in violence, but in unity, strategy, and the ability to endure. Across the stars, whispers spread. Humans were a force to respect, a people who could inspire allies and intimidate aggressors, yet who chose restraint and protection over destruction. And so, humanity's journey came full circle. From the ashes of a single destroyed colony, they had risen to a level that no enemy could ignore. The march of 700,000 warships had not only avenged SCIFI-Prime, but had reshaped the galaxy's understanding of human potential. The Armada returned to their home systems, not as conquerors but as guardians. Ships that had once carried only weapons now carried supplies, trade goods, and settlers. Engineers repaired colonies and helped civilizations rebuild. Scientists shared knowledge and technology. Humanity had become a beacon, not only of strength but of hope. On Earth, celebrations erupted. Children watched holographic displays of the fleet returning. Families wept tears of joy. Statues and memorials were dedicated to SCIFI-Prime, the fleet, and the heroes of the journey. Across human worlds, songs were sung, stories were told, and the unity forged in tragedy became a permanent part of human culture. Admiral Cade, standing on the bridge of the Invictus, looked out at the stars. He thought of the march, the battles, and the courage of millions. Humanity had endured, humanity had triumphed, and humanity would continue, not as scattered colonies but as one united species ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store. SCIFI-Prime lives on, he whispered. In memory, in spirit, in every star we touch. The galaxy had witnessed a new dawn. One colony had fallen, but it had awakened something far greater, the full strength, courage, and unity of humanity. Across systems, civilizations now knew the truth. Humans endure. Humans rise together, and humans, when united, are unstoppable. The stars were no longer silent witnesses. They were the stage for humanity's story, a story of loss, courage, and triumph. A story that began with tragedy but ended with hope, justice, and the promise that no colony would ever fall alone again. Humanity had marched across the stars. Humanity had clashed with the enemy. Humanity had won, and a new era had begun.